Let's go, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. It is October 15th, 2024, and this is episode 59. Whew, man, how you doing, Derek? What's up?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing all right. 59 is a big number. We're getting up there, buddy.
We are getting up there. All right, so what do we got on tap this week? Well, as usual, we will start from the results from the blasters we saw traveling the country and locally here at the bike.
And then we'll specifically recap the big 400K guarantee at the bike, which was our big tournament in town this weekend.
Yeah, super fun way to kick off their series now. I'm happy they've been doing those. And then after that, not everybody is super happy about the structure of these events over there. And, it kind of brought to mind there's a lot of features about this tournament that have kind of been sticking out. And I feel like some of them are a bit unique to LA. So I thought, what other kind of things are unique to LA tournaments? So let's talk about what kind of things. There's some unusual stuff that happens in our events that maybe we kind of take for granted. I thought we'd talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to recap, and maybe a week or two late on this one, we're going to recap what the whole mess with Vertucci and what happened with Hustler Casino Live and all the allegations that are happening over there.
Yeah, but our viewers probably don't pay any attention to that, so this will be nice newsy recap for them. And then big news for our listeners and for me, the 2024 TDA rules officially released about a week and a half ago, actually. So we'll bring up the spicy bits of that and just remind you that when you are down at the Gardens now, it is big blind first when you get down short. Sorry, Kevin.
You definitely love your TDA rules. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with the weekly roundup.
Yep, as usual. So let's jump right in with some results. Now, I think this one might technically be a touch late, but we got to give a big shout out and some props to our local LA Blaster and local actor, Kirk Acevedo. He got 6th place up at Thunder Valley on October 3rd in their main event, in the World Series Circuit main event up there at Thunder Valley. So we missed that the other week, so congratulations. He was up there battling with the likes of Brock Wilson, who got 4th, and Mr. Mark Egbert got 1st. So Kirk got 6th up there in Thunder Valley. Congratulations. More recently, this past week, we had a couple blasters, Rudy and Peter Cross, head over to Michigan for the Firekeepers MSPT, the Michigan State Championship, which got, I believe this is a record for them, got 2,819 entries in this thing. That's a $2.8 million prize pool. Holy cow. You got to get out to this thing. Just in the middle of Michigan, somewhere between Detroit and Chicago. Just everybody just pours out for this thing. And our boy Peter Cross got 27th. Not a bad showing out of almost 3,000 players. So way to go. A lot of killers in this field. A lot of familiar names up here near the top. We'll see. Got Mr. Daniel Sepiol, 13th place. And we've got Angela Jordison, 10th. And Josh Richard in 6th, who is currently leading the Player of the Year for MSPT right now. And Angela is actually in 10th in the Player of the Year for MSPT right now. And just another little plug, that MSPT, we may see these folks, that is coming to the bike at the beginning of November. So congratulations to Peter going out there to Michigan, getting some. I'm gonna call that a W. You ever been to
I'm
Michigan?
gonna just can't. I still can't get over this random tournament in Michigan that just absolutely crushes all the time. But congrats to all,
I know, right? I couldn't
all
get over
winners.
it either. That's actually one of the first, and it's one of the only tournaments I've traveled for. I just couldn't get over it. I had to see it for myself. I went a couple years ago, and they had over 2,000 entries, and that was before they even had space for them all. I actually regret it because you couldn't rebuy without waiting 4.5 hours to get back in, so that sucked. But now I think they've
Yeah,
fixed that. That's why they have so many more entries. So, man, super
yeah.
fun. All right, so let's turn our attention a little more closer to home. So the big tournament, as you said, the bike. Bike was having its big four, the opening multi-day event of the Big Poker October. So all of the blasters were around and in town. So our very own #1 field reporter got some great pictures from that. So congratulations to Masimeth Karazmi, super nice lady. I played with her several times. She did not want her photo taken or put out, so I guess we won't show that. But also, it was a top 4 chop. Second place in that chop was Mark Weinstein. here on the left, and then second place was Anthony Marquez here in the middle, and then Peter Pham on the right got third in the chop. Everyone taking home over 40 grand. And I know I looked it up. This is Matt Smith's high score. So congratulations to the top 4 here. Way to go.
Congratulations.
Rounding out the top 10, do I have the right page? Rounding out the top 10 here, we had in fifth place Dmitry Novak, and in sixth place Kyle Floyd, seventh place Mr. Adam Swan, Mr. Two Deuce on Instagram. In eighth place we had Kirk Acevedo, another final table. Big final table. He knocked me out of my one of my last shots at getting in this thing, man. So I'm glad he took those chips all the way to the house. He got real lucky on me. Hit the old jam with middle pair, outdraw, top pair, open ender situation. But he put the chips to good use. So congrats again. Another nice final table here. And then in ninth place, Brandon Gutierrez. And look at this, 10th place, Eugene Tito. Another final table for Eugene. This man is on fire. I really think he's going to be shooting up these Player of the Year charts of ours once these results come out, man. So
good thing those double bags don't count for the POY.
Oh, heck yeah. If the double bags counted, man, we would have zero shot. Eugene probably got like third place money in this thing, or fourth place, because he bagged like 10K in double bag money. We'll get to that later, though.
Right.
Other notables, Michael Ung had a nice finish. I think he got 11th. He had a ton of chips at one point, monster stack. And then look at, as we mentioned, Derek here made a very nice run yourself. So congratulations, Derek. What place did you finish?
33rd.
33rd, not bad at all. We had a little over 1,000 people in this thing. The actual numbers were 1,000. All right, I don't have the number right there. Sorry. Oh, there it is, 1,400. So not bad. Way to go. I had another graphic I wanted to bring up. All right. Well, I missed that graphic, but let's zip over before we jump into dissecting the Big Four. We can't go a results section without hopping over and checking in on Kevin. So the last week was October 8th. So anything after October 8th must be new on Kevin's feed. Let's check it out. So over at the Gardens, while the Big Four was going on, we had the Wednesday bounty there. So Mark Rodenbush got 4,000 plus bounties for chopping 4 ways there. And just once again, a random Wednesday tournament, you get 4,000 for chopping 4 way. I mean, 250 people on random Wednesday. This is great. I wish I lived closer to the Gardens, man.
Yeah, Gardens really just crushes all these little ones all the time.
Absolutely. And Thursday, the Thursday 10K guarantee was Jack Fitchett. Played with this fella before, so he was the chip leader when the final table chopped. So that sounds like 8 or 9 people chopped there. So he took home about 3 grand. Congratulations to Jack. And then we have Kevin's a big Dodgers fan. Go Dodgers. Then we had on Rocky Lee was the chip leader when the final 4 chopped. This is, I'm guessing, the Friday night event. So it's probably the Friday night event. The last one was Thursday. He took home over 5 grand. Congratulations, Rocky. And then we have Saturday. The Saturday ended in a 4-way chop. Chip leader was Hugo Velasquez. He took home, well, congratulations to Hugo. He took home, it looks like, just under 5 grand. And other notables, in 4th place here, Mr. Aaron Zhang, and Thuy Nguyen got 3rd, and Jay Gu Peng got 2nd. So Aaron Zhang is maybe found his new favorite spot, which is good for the rest of us because these don't count for Player of the Year. So it's very good that we got him hooked on Gardens dailies. He'll stay away from some of our Player of the Year points, huh? Aaron's been spotted quite a bit down at the Gardens now that we've now that he's been turned on to how great the events are run down there and how good everything is. So, and then the Sunday bounty recap, Kevin has here Mr. Luis Arellano. He got about 2,400 plus bounties in a 9-way chop on the Sunday bounty. So Hugo actually is the one, he got 2nd. Yeah, he got 2nd. No, the person who got 2nd in this one got 1st the day before. So Hugo, right here, he got 1st here, and he got 2nd in Sunday. So what a weekend Hugo had. Way to go.
Oh, yeah, good job, man.
What was Jeremy doing?
Jeremy's taking the weekend off, or what's going on?
I know, right? It must have been. Was he playing the Big Four all weekend? Is he letting these guys catch up? Is that what happened? um, we did have another event over at the bike that finished up. So thank you to our field reporter Frank. Jason Brawl took down the Super Stack Sunday event in a six-way chop. For some reason, he gave the trophy away. I'm not quite sure. I think he gave the trophy away. Frank, you can clear up what you mean by this caption. But congratulations to Jason for winning in that chop there. Um, other
Congratulations, good player.
Yeah, played with him a number of times. I think I actually feel like I played some cash games with him a fair amount of times. And then, well, just a reminder once again, if you haven't been seeing Larry's interviews with the winners, definitely check those out. Larry's fun guy. They gotta
Yeah,
they gotta get themselves a lav. But other than that, these things are gold. I loved his interview with Victor, but I haven't watched this one yet. I'll have to watch that one soon. And then we have pictures now from the 500K Quantum that has just started up. So that all the action going on down at the bike. Jeremy only played once at the Gardens last week. Jeez, Jeremy, what the heck? They're gonna forget about you, man. All right. So, congratulations to everybody who had great weekends. I did not have a great weekend. I fired into the Big Four once per flight that I was able to play, so 4 times, and I did not bag. I can admit, it was pretty disappointing because I got a lot of chips in the first couple minutes of all those. In the first
yeah,
in the first 3 flights I played, I probably had over 200K every single flight the first 3 flights I played before Reg was over. So
yeah,
it's one of those weekends, it's
yeah.
just crazy. Um,
Frustrating.
yeah, I mean it's not too bad. I know how it goes, but it is like once fine. You think 3 times I'm gonna get through one of the times, but the one time some nasty coolers, another, it's not worth talking about. Set over set, aces cracked, kings cracked, whatever. Do this, do that. What are you gonna do? Save all the luck for the
Yeah.
big ones, right? But so my
We got
weekend.
Jesse in that chat saying he got. So Jesse's saying he got fourth in one of these. So congrats, Jesse.
Way to go, Jesse. Um, yeah, so it was not a big week for me. I didn't pick up any points for Player of the Year, just hanging out. But consolation prize. I did take a little break from driving down to the bike on Sunday, and I did get second in another tiny little $10 global tournament.
Nice.
So that's 2 in a row. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I think these Sunday $10
Yeah,
global tournaments might be my thing if I'm playing. I don't know.
you're gonna have to start posting on Twitter with the hashtag Never Miss a Sunday.
Seriously, right? But in more exciting news, what was your day two, and what was your Big Four
Yeah,
experience like, man? I mean, I know we were both there battling on Friday. Neither of us made it through. Man, I freaking bubbled 2 out of the money on my second bullet, so it was just brutal. But you
yeah.
bagged up at the last possible second, right? Oh no, the first flight of the Saturday, first flight
On
of Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. Yeah, actually, I fired three flights, and the frustrating thing, it's similar as you. I mean, I don't think it was like maybe right out of the gate for all the flights, but basically near the end on all three flights, I had over 300K, and I didn't make it to the first two, and it was very frustrating. One of them, I probably took a flip that was probably unnecessary, which got me way down, and I made probably a pretty like bad call with King Jack to bust. The second flight, I don't remember exactly why I busted when I had 300K at the end. I think it just sort of went card dead and busted out. But then, I was able to get through there on Saturday. On Saturday, I was actually pretty carded most of the day, but then like kind of towards the end of the day, I started picking up some good cards and getting in some good spots. I was able to abuse the bubble a little bit kind of towards the end and build my stack up to 474K, which is a great, day two starting stack, obviously. But going into day two, I was card dead from the second I got there until like literally the end. It was so bad. But I was able to go from I don't forget how many people went to day two. It was like 150 or something like that.
Yeah, it was around 150.
But yeah, yeah. So I ended up in 33rd, even though I was so card dead, and it was just really kudos to the ridiculous structure of this tournament on day two. Like the day ones were super turbo, and we're going to cover that in a minute. But the day two structures were unbelievable, super smooth all the way through. I'm not even sure if we ever dropped below 30 BB average. And then at the final table, I was shocked to see that they were still 30 BB. And when they got down to four, I kind of walked over there and they were at 40 BB average. It was really just an unbelievably well structured day two. So great experience. Obviously frustrating to get card dead. A couple of exciting spots kind of towards the end. where I was getting really short and I jammed Jack 10 and Mark was just sitting with a freaking mountain of chips on the
Oh,
button. He jammed over my jam with the Jack 10. Anthony Patessa was actually in the small blind. He decided he was going to stick it in there with eights. I think he was like also pretty short stacked as well. So best scenario for me, right, for which Jack 10 to be against nines and eights, I flopped the 10 and I tripled up. It was like the first time I had like won a big pot and I was like up at like 1.4 or 1.3 million. And the very next hand I raised with ace king and somebody jammed like for two-thirds of my stack and I was like, I'm gonna lose this flip right here. I know it. Yeah, they had eights. I ended up losing, so I basically just like lost the pot that I won, and then maybe like three or four hands later, I jammed with ace ten, and actually Dimitri was the guy who final table and finished like fourth or whatever, or fifth. He busted me with ace king, and then that was the end of the tournament for me. But it was a great experience.
oh yeah.
Really really super well structured tournament.
That flip reminds me of how one of my bullets went down. It was the curse of the jacks. I swear, all the way up through probably Sunday afternoon. Ever since the last like 4 weeks, jacks have just been so brutal. I mean, like I said, at the final table, Frank and I busted the final table back to back jacks. And the next like 3 times I had them over the last few weeks, they've just been wrecking me, just losing every flip, getting beaten by ace 10 type hands, everything. And then I'm
Yeah.
sitting there at the end of the in the evening flight on the Friday, and I've got about, I don't know, I've got about 150,000 maybe or so, and the hand that essentially busts me, I look down, at a jack, I'm in the hijack, I look down at the other one, it's another jack, and I just sigh. I'm just like, oh god, this is terrible. So I make a raise, fold, and the big blind just jams for 120 or so, 115. And I'm just rolling my eyes. We're down to 2 tables. I turn around, Frank's over there. I just shout out, Frank, it's happening, and he looks up. He's like, what? He gets his camera out. Like, it's happening again, Frank. I throw my cards out and call, and of course he's got ace king. I've got king or the jacks, and of course the flop is ace king for something. Ace, ace. So not only did Frank make a bad
Yeah.
beat hand when he busted from the tournament, but we get no bad beat money. I make a bad beat hand now
Yeah.
because he's got ace king. The king still plays. So now I get the bad beat. Quad aces, my jacks. Here, you get nothing. You get to bubble. You've got 3 big blinds. Have fun. I mean, come on. But
Yeah, like we talked about, I feel like it'd be fun if tournaments started giving away something small, like like a small tournament entry or something,
yeah,
or even like meal tickets. I don't know, something for a bad beat
yeah.
bonus.
No, we're going to talk pretty soon about characteristics of LA tournaments, but I've looked at some of the structures and stuff for East Coast tournaments, and some of them, like for instance, Foxwoods does some really weird stuff. For instance, um, the I saw some over there. They're trying this thing where it like for the first 2 levels or for the first I don't know if it's just for the first level or two or if it's just before. It's for a very limited time. Basically, it's trying to encourage people to come and play the tournament. So let's just say it's for 2 levels. They do a high hand for the first 2 levels, and whoever has the high hand of those first 2 levels gets their buy-in back.
No,
So they're like just
wow,
trying
okay,
to
cool.
encourage more people to come and play right away. So
Yeah,
that's something we don't do. That's something they do, and that's something
right.
that I saw on Twitter when I saw those structures comes out on the East Coast. All the pro E people are just super pissed off about it, just the same way we are about a lot of these things
That's
over here.
what
So
like, yeah,
it's nice to know they have their own things that they're kind of upset about over there.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's cool. So, I mean, day 2 was 40-minute levels, so that makes a little bit of sense. And, given that it was the 400 and we have our blaster mentality, I guess I'm not too surprised. The Commerce Big Four also had really good structure through day 2, right? But let's, before we talk specifically about some of those other properties, I want to talk about the payout structure. So, you played this thing, you said 32nd, right? 30,
33rd, yeah.
33rd. So you battled all the way up to 33rd and you got 1455. You think that's fair? Hmm. What do you think of this
You
payout
know, I
structure overall?
fair is subjective, I guess,
Do you
right?
have thoughts about this?
For for a tournament that took out, a chunk of money for double bag bonuses, it was extremely top heavy. It
Yeah.
was like crazy top heavy,
So the
right?
day 2 prize pool
Ninth place,
was 413,000, just for reference. The
yeah.
the
So
actual day 2
ninth,
prize pool.
so I think ninth was 1.4 4%. I think when I kind of looked in and calculated it, which is about right for ninth place. But then to have first place be like 88K, which is what it was, like 87 point
Yep,
something K, right?
87.8.
That's crazy. But I again, like I'll talk about this before, there's almost like no really objective right or wrong. If I am a good player and I'm trophy hunting and I'm trying to get first place, I'm happy that that's 87K up top. You get me to that final table, I might not top because that's how much money is sitting up top, right? There's probably a number in my head, and I think somewhere encroaching like 80 to 100K
Mm-hmm.
is probably where I'm going to be, a little bit less willing to chop until we get down to like the very very few last players, and even at that point, I would have to still consider it. But yes, then there is me grinding my way all the way to 33rd and getting 1400.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that is a little
I
bit
think you
annoying.
still lost money in
Yeah,
this tournament, right? Technically.
I did. I did. Yeah, I think I put in 4 bullets total. So yeah, I just,
Yeah.
lost like 200 bucks, whatever it was.
Yep. So, looking at these paths, we've talked about this before as well. I think overall, LA tournaments do tend to be a bit more top heavy than certain other types of events. I think that is a result, I think that is a result of, say, slightly higher rake. I think honestly makes it higher. I think that, and we've also mentioned this, being more top heavy is better for pros, right? In a well-structured tournament, being more top-heavy tends to be better for pros. Being more bottom-heavy is better for Rex-ish, arguably, but being more bottom-heavy and flatter is better for the middling, slightly plus CV population, right? Let's say is better for the
Sure.
overall player pool and not the super pros, right?
That's right.
So the way that this is set up, I feel like, and my conclusion here kind of dovetails the next thing. I feel like there's two ways to look at it, right? Because the other thing we want to talk about, really, I mean, there's a couple other things, but one of the other things we want to talk about is this big bagging bonus that you mentioned. Now, for some reason, the last time I don't feel like it was this prevalent. This time, there were 22 double bags for paying out 55,000 out of the prize pool, which 22 seems like it's not as high as it felt hearing about Eugene quadruple bagging and Alvin triple quadruple bagging and Andy triple bagging, right? But that's still a lot. And the thing is, just like with the quantums, these double bags and these other payouts, I feel like they almost are. You could almost argue they're the things that are making up that mid-level payout instead of paying flatter, so that when you get 60 something, maybe you get like 1300 at 60 something, then you get like 2300 at 30th instead of what the payouts were. These double bags, right? And these other payouts, that's how they keep people in action, so to speak, right? However, if you take that argument, my argument then is, well, geez, now you're really, really, really crushing the true Rex, right? I feel like when we go through all of these kind of things that the LA tournaments do, I feel like, especially the bike, I feel like all of these things are really catered towards the regular. They're truly their main customer, but like you and I emphasize, in our minds, they should try to cater to the customer they want, not the customer they have. Obviously, they need to keep their customer they have happy, but our argument has always been the best way to keep those guys happy is to bring in as many new customers as possible, right? Bring in as many fresh players, as many fish as possible, right? Bring them in,
No one's
bring them
going to
happy.
complain if you gigantic prize pools. They will stop complaining.
However, I feel like every single tweak that we talk about, especially at the bike, is really designed for a regular, like a semi-pro, someone who's just there all the time grinding and who knows the systems really well to take advantage of, to stay in action and keep playing and keep winning and taking advantage of, right? And there's a tweet that I want to kind of bring up. I was going to bring it up later, but it just seems it was really relevant. So with all this talk about the double bags, let me start with that. We kind of got thinking about this really hard because of this So Rare NBA Squad account was really tweeting hard about the double bag bonuses in this tournament, right? So one of So Rare's biggest complaints about these double bag bonuses is that you can bag a very insignificant amount of chips, right? Very small amount of chips, and you get a full eight buy-in bonus, right? And the number of chips you get is insignificant, and you're taking a tiny amount of chips out of the prize pool, but taking a bunch of the prize pool out. Personally, I don't think that's relevant. I think what really matters at the end of the day, all that really matters is this bagging bonus bringing in a significant number more? Like, is it profitable to the prize pool,
Right.
right? To the prize pool overall.
Right.
So with
Right.
22 double bags, that means that if and the double bag bonus was just a smidge under 8 times a buy-in, but it's basically 8 times. So let's just for argument's sake say that. So with 22 double bags, there needed to be 176 entries from people who only entered specifically for double bagging for it to be a break even to the prize pool, right? For it to have not really have hurt
Yep.
the prize pool. Now,
Yep.
if that's the case, I still argue that's bad because that hurts the guarantee, right? I mean, that's bad for
Right.
us, right? Because it hurts the guarantee.
Right.
And then the other thing is like if it's barely over, I would argue, well, barely over is not good enough because even if all you gave away was a min cash, there's still going to be some number of people who will replay to try and get a bigger bag. So, I mean, you need those
Right.
numbers. Now, I spoke with Larry, and he specifically said that they are positive that a lot of people enter, a lot more people enter trying to get the double bag than get paid out. I would like to see the numbers. I can believe that more enter, a lot more, not so sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get into that in a second. I before I lose the thread, I just want to bring up this tweet though. But so with all of these other things, and this is what we talk about with the quantums also, right? The quantums add so much complexity to tournaments. They add so many
Yep.
other ways to make money, so many other ways for money to come out of the prize pool, so many side games, right? And I always kind of describe them like, well, what you're doing is you're creating like this festival of tournaments all week around your main tournament, but everyone doesn't really know what's going on. Like, especially someone who just wanders
Right.
in, they don't know what is happening, and they don't know what's
Right.
going on. Like, they don't even know. I literally every quantum I play with one person who doesn't even know it's a multi-day event, right? So they clearly don't know about
Right.
double bag bonuses. They don't know about the multiple flights. They don't know about different percentages bagging, right? So this is in response to us talking off of So Rare's complaints, which we'll go through some more of those soon. Because these are things that are not just they're not just at the bike, they're kind of common around LA. But this comment I want to read it. So she says that I might have an irrelevant take since I'm new to poker. Completely disagree there. You have the most relevant take of all. As far as Derek and I are concerned, you're interested in poker, you play, and you're new. You are the person that matters. But these double bag quantum bullshit, blah 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 events that I see at the bike sound so intimidating for people who are new. And I don't know if growing the field is an objective at the bike, but I tried it one time and never again. I immediately recognized it's a bunch of regs who know how to work the system with what seems like infinite buy-ins ready. Anyways, I'm not trying to say all tournaments should cater to new players or whatever that's supposed to mean, but in my opinion, the majority of events at the bike are just not it. Maybe I just had one bad experience. All right, so I mean, what do you think of that comment? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I think one of our biggest fears, and I think you and I tried to speak more for the voice of the community and leave, obviously we inject our personal opinions, but we are trying to speak for the community. And the fear is that amateur players get really confused and overwhelmed with this. I can't even explain these tournaments to people who actually play poker. It takes me like 5 minutes, right, to go through all of it. And they are very complicated, and it is going to like just make people kind of not want to play because then they also, you also have to remember that like people just are busy with their lives, right? Especially working people. So they're not going to be paying attention to the schedules and scouring them. Like you're saying, some of them just kind of show up and they kind of don't know what's going on. Then they're like, oh, there's this bike has these weird tournaments. So I'm gonna stop playing at the bike. It doesn't matter. The bike could literally just reduce all their tournaments to one quantum of series, and people may not come because they just think all the series, all the tournaments are weird. So we have to be very careful about simplicity and very careful about people's perceptions. And I think stuff like that is super scary.
Yeah, and I want to key in on what one of the lines she said is like, maybe maybe this was just a one-off. Maybe I just had one bad experience, but she's not going back. And it only takes one bad experience to lose a potential
Right.
customer, right? I mean, it
Right.
sucks, but you can kind of mistreat the regs. I mean, I don't mistreat the regs, but will forgive a lot, especially if you're bringing in more people, right? Especially
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but like new customers, people who haven't been there before, one bad experience is all it takes. And we've seen that everybody seems to be kind of afraid of things they haven't that are a little bit different and new. Whenever DJ did like
Yeah.
an off the wall tournament with a tweak to the rule, whether it was big or small, it lowered attendance big time. So
Yep. Yep.
people jumping into these quantums, they, like I said, I play with people that don't even know what's happening, and I feel like if someone had told them this is a little different than a normal tournament, they would have not come, right? So they just kind of got tricked into playing, which is awkward for them in that spot.
Right.
And the other
Yeah, and
thing,
I
oh,
think
go ahead.
Larry was also making some points earlier too about he had told me the way they kind of look at those double bag bonuses is that those people, that would have been cash didn't get them in cash, so you got to take them in cash out of double bag bonus. But I think it just keeps like piling on top of the complexity of it. But um, there are, I suppose, like other factors to take into account. But even what you said a little bit earlier about how many people actually double bagged and you need 176 entries or something to break even. I think over time we should just get a sense of like what is the percentage of people that enter more than once that double bag.
Yeah,
Is it 10%? Is it 20%? And after that, you sort of get a number of like, well, you're always going to need roughly this many entries for this to actually like, like be profitable or some in some way to the prize pool.
yeah, and that's the thing. That is data they should have. We've asked them what data they have
Yeah.
before,
Right.
but they know who's buying in
Yeah.
and when. So with a little bit of legwork, they should be able to tell that exactly. And Larry's pretty sure. He says he's certain that it's higher, and that he said they know. If they're allowed to share, I would love to see the stats from a series and see how many people are doing that.
Yeah.
Now, it's totally different for quantums because you get paid every time. But for like the big four, they've run two now. I'd love to see it because this is. So let me quick run through why I think it's definitely possible, but it seems tough to have that many entries because think about it this way. First flight, no double bags, can't enter again. Okay. First flights were on Monday, right? They bagged 12 people combined that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say maximum people bought into the second flight, like 5 people bought it. So you got 5 entries there. Okay. Now you got 12 people. Next day, Tuesday, you got 12 people. Let's say all 12 of them came and played. Yeah, right. 12. Okay, you got 17 entries. All right, cool. So then another 6 people bagged. Like, all right, and then now we're doing the afternoon. Another 4 or 5 people bagged. So now you're up to like 20 re-entries if every single person who bagged has re-entered again, somehow turned around and entered right away, came right back. You're up to like 20, 25, probably like 25 entries. So then now we're on Wednesday. So if every single person who bagged turned around and played every single flight they could after, even if you did that, you're just a little over that number. So you're really counting on people to rebuy and re-enter a lot of times to hit a good number
Yeah.
because you don't even have a significant number of people who can re-enter until you're like in the Friday
Right.
afternoon flight.
Right.
Because in the Friday morning flight, there's
Right.
only like 40 people on that return list, right? So I mean, how many people could you possibly have that are rebuying already at that point, and then they need to be firing hard and not bagging, right? So like I would love to see those numbers.
Yeah.
I just a little skeptical that it's
I,
a very
I,
high number.
I think that's exactly the point, right? So the thesis is sound, the theory is sound. Double back bonuses is going to get more people to come and play and then get your prize pool bigger. Fine, right? Nobody's going to disagree with the first order problem you're trying to solve. But then you have to go a little bit deeper into the math now that you have enough data. Like how many people, what are the percentages? Like, per tournament, like if you didn't have that, would you have gotten roughly the same? Because the negative, because we always have to think about the consequences of the things that we're doing, right? It's never just a first order effect, it's a second order effect, tertiary effect, right? So what are the impacts of doing that? Well, okay, so you're going to get tweets like that where people are kind of getting scared away from playing these tournaments, right? And actually, you're scaring away the people that we need the most, which are new players and new blood to keep coming in and playing.
Yeah, and the other thing that these double bag bonuses do, right, is like we're so excited that this is not a quantum event, right? We're so happy that they're running a regular multi-flight event. But to going back to So Rare's post here, these double bag bonuses turn the day ones into a lot like the day ones of a quantum, and the same problems exist. So a lot of the problems that the
Yep. Same
the
thing.
more savvy players have is like this creates an incentive for things like collusion and chip dumping. The more people you have that are already bagged, the more people you have who only have an incentive to bag one chip and have friends in the field, like this creates potential for misplay. Not saying anything like that happened, but it creates the possibility. And
Yeah.
this is just another thing where if a new player is here and they see these people talking about you already bagged, you didn't, they see him playing a little funny, even if it's not collusion, they're just being weird, they could have a bad
Yeah.
experience
I
and be
mean,
gone.
Yeah, even soft play is, collusion technically. So soft play isn't as bad as like straight up collusion, but that's also not good.
Yeah, and then this dynamic on the bubble he's talking about. This is another problem we have with quantums, where half the people playing at the end are playing a survivor or a satellite structure, where they're just trying to survive with one chip, and then other people aren't. So it makes a completely imbalanced thing. Once again, getting back to the point where there's so many different mini games happening instead of just a poker tournament, right? And then the other
Right.
thing is that because of that, if people are playing these earlier flights, especially even the later ones, if you're playing any flight optimally, and it's not like the only people who wouldn't be are people who haven't bagged yet and are playing the very last flight. Everyone else to be playing these day ones optimally with a bag bonus this big really should be playing
Yeah.
like it's a satellite, and they should be playing so tight,
Right.
and they should be playing so slow, and the blind level should be astronomically high before everyone bags, because it should be playing like a satellite. I mean, when you see the satellites online with people who are really professional satellite players, right? They are
Yeah.
down to like a blind and a half. They're down to like two big blinds,
You
and
know,
there's multiple of them,
you
right?
know exactly what hand and what to do with every stack. It's crazy those satellite pros.
Yeah.
You can always count on me as one of the regs that is not going to care, and I'm going to do very punty things,
Right. Yeah.
even when I should be going for a double back bonuses. I'm going after chips.
Right.
It is what it
No,
is.
and you bring up a good point with that. Just a lot of these things that are, if you were to enter a bunch of like optimizing AIs into the system, would just ruin the game as far as like that doesn't look like a poker tournament. They don't look like they're trying to win
Right?
first.
Yeah.
It would ruin it. You can get away with them because we're LA Blasters. We're not all. Everyone's
Yeah.
not a pro. Everyone's not there for that. All of these different reasons, and you can get away with a lot of this stuff because people will just punt it off, right? You can have a bad structure, but you might
Yeah.
still get to the final table with decent number of big blinds because people were blasting off, right? Which that's fun,
Yeah.
that's great, but you should be creating a structure that incentivizes that doesn't punish it, which is what you've done, right? I mean, when I got
That's
second
exactly right.
place,
Yeah.
yeah, when I got second place in the afternoon one after I lost with the jacks, I had three big blinds. We were still 8 away from bagging, and I clung to those three big blinds like it was a satellite because that's what it is. And I was, I wrote it down to a blind and a half. I got a win. I got back up to 4. I paid my blinds. I folded through my blinds. I was holding on to that nub like for dear life, and I got down to just 2 away from bagging. And our flight didn't bag until 10,000, 20,000 blinds, which is double the level of what the earliest one was. And everyone should have honestly been doing it more like I was playing, because if you still have flights to go, that's just what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, if you want to win money. Now everyone doesn't want to win money. Some people just want to win trophies. Some people, so and we play, like you said, we play that way too. But just I don't know, just this is not your tournament structure should incentivize fun play, should incentivize regular tournament play where you're going to win a real tournament instead of this weird like, all right, day 1 you play a survivor, on day 2 you play a re-entry, and day 3 you play a whatever. So I don't know. That is so we have slid into the topic of what makes LA tournaments unique, right? And bagging bonuses are not unique to the bike. However, the bike does have the largest bagging bonuses anywhere. Commerce has gotten into the double bag bonus frenzy, but they don't tend to be the full amount. Like I believe for their big 4 that it was like a $2,000 bagging bonus instead of 2,500, right? They would have other events where you get, for instance, the XL bounty. When you get an XL bounty for double bagging, that's closer. That's gives you a decent number. And a number of their other events, the double bag wasn't a straight min cash. Now at the Gardens, I don't believe I've seen them ever do a double bag bonus other than a min cash. So the Gardens is still somewhat pure in that sense. And the Lucky Lady, they did a double bag bonus in their last multi-flight event. So
Mm.
these double bag bonuses, I don't think they're unique to LA. I've seen them other places, but I really feel like the size and the you can count on it so reliably. I feel like the bike has the monopoly on that. uh,
Yeah.
so that's kind of one property, and love it or hate it, the double bag bonus. Like I said, we talked about that to death. The other thing that is kind of, I think, somewhat unique to LA, I don't think I really see this in many other places, is the varying blind level between pre-reg and post-reg. Now, a lot of tournaments have like one blind level for day 1, another blind level for day 2, maybe even another blind level for the final table, but I don't think I've seen other events where the blind level is one thing before reg ends and then another thing after reg ends. I can't really think of a lot of other events where I've
Oh,
seen
yeah,
that.
that is very unique. Yeah, yeah. The very first time I saw that, I was like, oh, that's weird,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
it's like
kind of.
extremely unique to LA, and almost every place seems to do it, honestly. And not just that, but like do a lot of different changes. Like Lucky Lady had a weird one the other day where they had the one blind level, and then before Reg, but then the last two levels before Reg ended were an hour apiece. So it was like half hour, half hour, half hour, half hour, hour,
Yeah,
hour, and
it
then
kind of.
after Reg it was like 25 minutes. So it's like what the heck, maybe not that extreme, but something crazy like that.
I don't want to overgeneralize, but basically, I almost feel like the reason why that happens is because something was wrong with the way that you structured the day one, so you had to do a reset for day two. Like that's what happened. So probably the proper way to fix it is really think through how you can achieve what you want to achieve through day one and day two
Yep.
with smooth, levels all the way through instead of doing some sort of weird reset that like, kind of it just feels like very lazy. Not like I don't know, I don't want to use that word lazy. But basically like, like wait, the what you did in day one wasn't ideal, so then you had to do a reset, and that's why you have this weird day two structure, I think.
Well, that's the thing though. These aren't even the day two structures though. Remember, this is just pre-reg and post-reg. These are in most
Oh, right,
dailies,
right, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So we'll talk
right,
about what
right,
happens on day two next, because I think
yeah,
that's also a band
right,
aid slash crutch for part of what's going on here, right? So, but I do think
right,
what you said is correct. I think that it's a lot of it. So every time we talk to the tournament directors around here, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Well, they say it's because we want reg to last as long as possible, right? And we've mentioned this before
yeah,
too. I think it's completely meaningless. Like if you had a tournament that had 5 hours of reg and you let everyone have 200 big blinds when they bought in the entire 5 hours, you're an idiot and you're not going to get any buy-ins. But if you had a tournament that had an hour of reg and everyone was playing 50 to 20 big blinds during that hour, and it was just a really smooth
yeah,
progression, you'd have way more buy-ins. Um,
right,
but what's unique here also is that it's not uniform across the city. The bike and the gardens both reduce the blind level after reg. So the gardens dailies are half an hour and then 25 minutes, and the bikes one days, they're kind of Friday and Sunday one days have been 30 minutes and 20 minutes. 20 minutes is a turbo. I'm sorry to tell you, right? And those have been larger events, the $400 events. And then the big ones, their big event with the 150 one day, that goes 40 minutes and 30 minutes. Even their multi days, the bike does just this big 40 was 30 minutes and 25 minutes. And then when it hit 25 minutes, it felt so fast because we're still skipping levels. We're still going fast, right? And the same thing in quantums. In the quantum day ones, they do the same thing. They reduce the blind level after the reg closes pretty reliably.
yeah,
Um, Whereas the commerce, I'm not sure if they've done it recently. I haven't been there in a little bit, but when DJ was there, anyways, and hopefully they still do this. Whenever they did that, it was the opposite. They would have 20-minute levels, and then after reg closed, be half-hour levels.
that's okay.
My
So
God,
that's
that's
okay,
so
like to
much
make it,
better.
yeah, to make it longer later, right? When more money, well, when any money's on the line, and especially when big money's on the line, that's better. Going the other way, it just again, it just feels like yeah, you're just trying to extend red for as long as possible to get the most people in there, and after that, you're trying to hurry everyone out by turboing it the
Yeah,
rest of the way, and that just kind of sucks.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that combined, and also like the double bags feel, maybe they can argue whether it is or isn't, but you can't say they don't feel to us like you're just trying to cover your butt for the guarantee and you don't care how much is in the real prize pool, right? And the same thing with
yeah,
this blind level going down. Even if you had a really scientific reason and thought it out and had a great formula and you could explain it, like this is why the blinds go faster later, it would just feel like you said, it feels like you're just trying to like you got all the money, now you want us out, right? Especially when the
right,
structure's
right,
bad and when it goes fast. And it's just inexcusable, like from a in my mind, and it's inexcusable from a like you. This feels worse than all the others as far as I have your money leave, because like you said, all of the important play is later in the tournament. Like the most
yeah,
important play is
yeah,
heads up when you're playing for like, in this event, the first play, and it's no wonder these things also encourage chops. These super steep prize pools also encourage chops, because like if they had played heads up
yeah,
for first and second, that would have been a $33,000 difference in a $400 tournament.
right,
Like
right,
$33,000
yeah,
difference. Like that is huge. That's more than they were playing for third place money, the difference between first and second, if they had played that. And that's when, it doesn't hold here because this was a multi-day, just 40-minute levels. But like in the one days, the 150K guarantee, it goes shorter and it stays shorter. So like
it does.
we're playing for all
It's
the
very
money, as you
fast.
pointed
Like
out.
yeah. After the 150K, a couple of those I played where I went deep, it was like so much skill. Well, not so much skill. Let's just say that skill mattered more because it was deeper early. Obviously, everyone was just punting constantly. But after the registration was over, it's like if you aren't paying attention, it's like all of a sudden everyone's at like 15 to 18 bigs,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you're flipping for you're just constantly flipping
hmm
for this huge stack that you have been building all
I
day,
know, right?
and it's just it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one good thing about the fast structures later is it does even it increases variance and allows lowers the skill edge, right? So that does allow
Yeah.
kind of more of the uh, less studied players to win more often, which that side effect is good, but the way it doesn't make playing feel good, right? Oh, and
And
Mark talked about
also, like
savage
even
average. I love it. Yeah,
yeah, I would love to have
I
Savage
would
Hour or
love
just
it if
something
someone could
similar
run
to,
that.
or just the idea of it, right? Like the idea of it is the most important thing, if not the implementation detail. But like basically what you just said about that is like um it is in the best interest of new and inexperienced players to go deep against good players and not win right away, but to get better, right? If you're just gonna only way that you can win is to get into a turbo mint and flip and hopefully just win a bunch of things, it's not sustainable, right?
Right,
Actually, most of the time you're just going to lose.
right.
It doesn't matter. You're just going to lose, and you're not going to get better because you're never going to get like that. Then just say you want to go out to the World Series, you run deep in one of the big events, you're gonna have no idea what you're doing, right? Um, so it's also better in some ways for the community to have like good deep play late against good players to kind of learn, right, and test yourself.
Yeah, yeah, especially at the lower buy-ins, especially at the sub 1K buy-ins, so they can get a shot at that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard people before too when like we're deep in a tournament, there's a bunch of killers there, and there's some people that are kind of inexperienced. When I hear them bust out, I kind of hear them sort of like kind of saying to themselves, saying, "Oh, people like I learned a lot from this," or something like that, and that actually makes me feel good, right? It's like they've taken something away from it, right? And
Yeah,
I've learned so much, like especially early on when I got to play with good players.
yeah. As opposed to just like, ah, dang it, I lost a flip. It's over.
Right,
Like every
right,
time,
yeah,
every single time, it's just I lost
right,
a flip. Ah, he hit his queen on my ace king. Like that's it. No learning there. You just cooler it and we just go. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, with these shorter levels, right, and trying to get people out and trying to get people to rack up and buy in again, right? Um, Another thing we have a lot of is day two blind rollback, right? That is something I don't
mhm,
think is particularly common. We have it as by design in the quantums. They like completely change the whole tournament. The whole blind structure changes. The whole everything changes for day two, and everything is just everything's completely different. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And honestly,
yeah,
the day two structures on of quantums usually is pretty decent. Because it's a tournament. It's really you think of it as a 1 day tournament. I mean, not a 1 day. If you think of it as starting that day two is really day one, and now they're just designing a tournament where everyone starts with 70 big blinds and they has to go long. That's amazing. Fewer
yeah,
fewer chips designed to be a long tournament is a great structure tends to be as opposed to all these 50K chips.
yeah,
Let's start at 100, right? So,
right,
however, other tournaments do it too. The Commerce did it several times for their LAPC. Some of those were really nice, but I feel like some of that is a side effect of it's like a band-aid because of the structures, because of the turbo things that happen. Um, you shouldn't have to roll back the blinds for your tournament to feel good, right? It's nice to be able to do that to help fix your tournament if you couldn't get it to behave the way you wanted. So I am glad overall that when it happens, but I feel like it's a symptom. Like you do that, good, it helped, but you should really examine and study your structure more and find out why did I have to do that? Why didn't my tournament play well, right?
yeah,
Um,
right, right.
yep. So we saw a bunch of those at Commerce. We see them in the Quantums. Um, I don't think the bike has used it for any of their other events yet. Um, yeah, and Cabin I don't believe does it either. So uh, the quantum structures deep does skip levels, says Patessa, but I mean it's still a whole lot better than the 150K 1 day, right? So I mean, but yeah, I'm sure it's still not the best. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Um, So another thing that I think is unique to LA, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I I was surprised when I got here and I started seeing these, and it's really, I feel like a lot of these things revolve around the bike. Honestly, like the bike's created its own weird ecosystem, but LA's obsession with survivor tournaments. I mean, other places do satellites, but they're almost always to an actual event. But I just don't think I see as many other venues running just straight cash satellites all the time, every day, every event,
Yeah,
everywhere. Is it just me or
right.
am I crazy?
Yeah, I don't know when that kind of stopped happening, but you're right that it's very rare. It's very, very rare.
Uh, I don't like it. And once again, the thing about survivors, right? It's really just a forced chop at 10% or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
which, I mean, once again, that's really good for the casino, right? I mean, now, don't get me wrong, it's good for people who are trying to grind up a bankroll. It's good for people who are min cashers, right? So it's good
yeah.
for that tier. But and at the end of the day, it is another thing that's just good for the casino because it means you're not gonna have to run the tournament for as long.
All the way through. Yeah, go all the way
You
through.
hit
Yeah,
the
that's
money and
right.
it's over.
Um, yeah. I think survivors have been positioned as like kind of bankroll savers. It's always kind of what they've been positioned as. So, maybe if we're thinking they're doing it for altruistic reasons, they're probably just throwing bankroll savers all over the place to keep people in action. But you're right that one of the impacts of it is definitely, it's a little bit more cost friendly for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, and some other DJ had kind of created this times up tournament, which is really just a kind of like a unknown survivor-ish kind of thing, right? Like you
Yeah,
got this
yeah.
much time and
Surprise,
then
surprise
bam,
survivor.
it's over.
Yeah,
So, oh look, there's So Rare NBA squad. So and that's kind of the same thing, like all these things. And I appreciate that the venues have these problems where they have these events. They're not positive when they're going to end. However, I would argue the more you know your client base and the better you are at like actually understanding how structures work, you know pretty close what they are. But they don't necessarily know when they're going to end. They don't know this or that. But having these events where they're going to end at this time and this won't go dragging on forever here, I mean, it like once again, it's kind of like you pull back that curtain, and I don't want to be cynical, but it's just like, oh, that's another thing that's good for the casino. That's good for the casino.
right,
And just like
right,
when you're on the floor, if it's good for the casino, is it good for me? I don't
right,
know.
right.
Jeremy says he played some survivors at the Venetian. Yeah, I mean they do exist other places. Like I said, other places do satellites, but I think it's almost more that I see other places running satellites and not survivors almost. Because we literally in a lot of these series, I mean, if you look at the bike series, they run a survivor every night, every single night, even at the I think even at the Commerce Circuit, so maybe they are spreading this around, or maybe it's just Commerce. At the Commerce Circuit, they're going to run a Survivor like every night for the first week. So just
Hmm.
just weird.
Well, Jeremy does make a good point that people who just want like a quick tourney, it does fit them. So
Yep.
that's a good point.
No, there. Yeah, there are definitely there's definitely reasons to play them. It's just um, this one is definitely not as egregious as others. I personally don't really love Survivors, but
Yeah,
which,
and I tend not to play them.
yeah. So in that same vein as Survivors, though, I think LA was maybe one of the early places to start adopting milestones, and not only that, but that's so milestones are not an LA only thing now because World Series is doing them.
Yeah,
However, we have our own flavors, which is kind of cool. Like Commerce does that reverse shootout, and the Gardens does the mystery bounty. So hey, it's pretty neat. For those who don't know,
yeah,
the reverse shootout is a weird thing Commerce does, where they sort of have a milestone. It's like an unofficial milestone. Now for the circuit satellites, they run them the way the circuit does, but for like LAPC satellites, they would run like at a certain time. They would sort of pick a milestone person to take out of the event, and then when they get close to the money amount, instead of playing just straight up the whole event has to knock out three more people and then we're in the money, they would say split up three tables, and they would say, okay, each of these tables, you knock someone out, the rest of you are in.
yeah,
So that's super. I love these wacky formats personally. Now that one's
yeah.
kind
I,
of.
I think I think they're super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's kind of super extreme. And then the other extreme here is Kevin over at the Gardens. They did milestones first, but instead of finishing it off in a regular Survivor, they do that mystery bounty, and we talked about that a few times too. Instead of getting to regular Survivor-y kind of finish, you start knocking people out and drawing mystery bounties with a 50-50 shot of getting a seat. It's kind of crazy. So,
Yeah.
yep. All right. So, I do have one other thing that I think this may not be unique either, and it's once again it falls in the category of like good for the casino. But some of our viewers here, some of the regs around have been running into this. No casino around here seems to let you do a partial chop and play it out. If soon as you agree to any kind of deal in a chop, you are heavily pressured and basically told, nope, you have to chop and be done, or you have to play for it all around here, which you can sometimes negotiate a little bit on that. One time we negotiated, okay, well, how about instead of like just ending, how about you let us basically flip for it? Like, we're going to play like, let's play like one hand per round until we're done, right? One hand per level until we're done. And they do let you just quick flip for it at the end, but like, no one lets you play. I don't know. Is that normal? Do places that facilitate chops usually let you play it out?
I think they do. I feel like this is the only place I've seen that gets enforced. Like everyone else just, I feel like you always hear about chops all the time in Vegas. Like, yeah, we chop for this much and play for the trophy. Like you hear that all the time. It's weird here.
Yeah. And, so rare. We were just pointing that out that these super top heavy payouts incentivize shopping. And then this secondary thing keeps you from playing that last bid out. So once again, just good for the casinos. They get to close shop early,
Yes. And it's such a dumb thing to enforce too, because like when people are chopping, you're down to what, like, typically five,
Yeah.
six, whatever players, even
One
down to
table.
three players. How much longer is that going to be, right?
Yeah.
For you to like stop them from playing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Like you're talking about three more downs or something, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And then I wouldn't have to take away your player of the year points next year when you get the trophy after that, because you would have at least played for that part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's my list. Can you think of anything else that's kind of uniquely LA about our tournaments, Derek? Before I move on.
No, I think usually, I think the double back bonuses that typically grind people's gears the most, followed closely by the direct day two buy-ins.
Yeah.
Um, and it does reward, most of the regs, and we do have to obviously consider our regs, but we do have to consider, the perception to regs. We really, really need to do that.
Yep. Yep. I think a good step would be if they just excluded their day two bagging from the guarantee. They pull that out, but they still have to hit the guarantee with what's in there. I think that would go a long way for me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't fix all the problems. It wouldn't fix all the other problems and concerns about conclusion, but at least it would fix the misrepresentation problem for me that sometimes can happen. So, oh yeah, that too. They've been giving away main event seats in everything in every series.
Yeah, I hated that because that was like
so terrible.
That was like what like did it get to the whole final table? Was it 9?
I think it's 10.
Seeds?
It's usually the final 10.
10?
Yeah.
10, was it 10 seeds?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to take that much out of the prize pool for just, I feel like the people who are going to finish that deep are probably going to play that.
Yeah, anyway. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it was unnecessary to take it out of the pool.
Yep.
But then, so everybody was also asking, what should they have altered the big four payouts? So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but ninth place actually looked correct. It was just like first was just crazy. It was probably like 20K over what it was supposed to be, or 15K over what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, so I think really just flattening out first and a little bit of second, and just spreading it out a little bit more to maybe some of the even before the final table, probably was the right way. But again, it's we're almost talking about like maybe some traditional payout sheet, but again, it really just depends on what you're after.
Yeah, and that's wild. If they said it came mostly off first place, that's absurd, because that would mean first place was like supposed to be 90,000. Like the hell? No way.
Yeah, it would have been 100. It would have been 100K.
Yeah,
right?
that's insane.
No. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. I mean, when I get there, I'm not gonna chop, but it'll still be. All right, so let's move on. So that's a little taste of LA for those of you who don't play in LA. That's a little bit of something to prepare for, something to study up on before you come out here. Luckily for all of you folks, other than Quantums, the main events at all the casinos around here are very straightforward and regular. It just tends to be the other events and the Quantums that are not standard. So most things that are like dubbed a main event, they tend to be pretty standard. So Yeah, the Gardens is also
Yeah.
pretty top heavy usually. So okay, so the next thing for those of you in tournament land out there with us who don't pay attention to the circus that is HCL, let's get you caught up. There was a scandal 2 weeks ago, and around one of the owners of Hustler Casino Live, Nick Vertucci. So he is the co-owner. He was one of the founders of Hustler Casino Live. As we all know, Ryan Feldman does kind of the producing. He does the lineups. He does a lot of the actual kind of, the work, honestly. And Vertucci was supposedly like the business side and the funder and the money and, working advertisers. But he also played on the show, which I always thought was, well, dumb isn't even the right word. I just thought that was a bad business move. I thought that was a bad look. I didn't like it. And aside from playing on the show, apparently he also harassed the women, allegedly, which is not really alleged. So we have a nice article. There's a lot of articles out there in Poker News, Poker.org. This one is on Legal U.S. Poker Sites by Jennifer Newell, and she has a nice timeline of the events. So I'm just going to run down the events for those of you who were not familiar. So a couple weeks ago, Julia from Palmdale, who's apparently Julia McBride, she posted on Twitter some text messages that she had gotten from Nick over time. The day's not exactly last year, September 2023, where he's basically being a jerk, right? I mean, the texts in here are just being really inappropriate. They're just being really like crass, right? So, and her tweet is here about, let's share some stories about Vertucci. Let's keep him from harassing women. Let's speak out, right? And it's like, okay, this is not a good look. This is embarrassing, but okay, but why? But it kind of comes out that the reason that she was doing this is because she found out that Lauren, the dealer on Hustler Casino Live, got fired from dealing, and it was she said it was as a result of she was trying to file a harassment complaint like with HR, and she ended up being the one who fired because nobody would speak up and no one would back her story up, and then sounds like maybe there was some retaliation or something, right? So that part of the story, none of that has come out officially. We're all thinking we'll hear or see something about that eventually, some sort of legal stuff. The fact that there's been no real whispers from any of those parties kind of does back up that could be definitely something working legal. But, after Julia posted this, she posted right after that, basically, that it looks like Nick was trying to dig up some dirt on her because, that's what little babies do when somebody says something about them. They don't say that's ridiculous, I'm a man of principle. They say I'm gonna find some dirt on you and say, well, you're this bad, you're so bad like this. Anyways, so she's talking about, this was like the next day, she's talking about, or later that night, about Lauren, saying Lauren had to deal with a lot. So after her post came out, this folk here, so once again, so we're NBA squad, our buddy here in the chat, mentioned that on Live at the Bike way back when, Nick had showed Kitty Kuo a dick pic on stream, and Kitty backed it up, said, yeah, that happened. So that's something a responsible, upstanding member of the business community would do, is just show Kitty his dick pic for no reason. So after that, other things came out. People pointed out on stream the instant where he randomly is just grabbing and touching Sashimi's ears and telling her that it's not harassment. This, look, and then he puts his finger in the other girl's ears on the other side. What the heck?
Yeah.
It's absurd. And Arden chimes in here. She says that apparently at some point he joked, probably quote unquote joked, and wanted Arden to strip search him. So she's like, yeah, it's the last time I played on the stream with Nick. So more and more stories kept coming out about Nick. There was a Spaces on Twitter. There was a Spaces on Twitter where what's her name? Is it written in here? Hold on. Veronica. So Veronica was the next thing. Before that was Ashley. I'm gonna have to bring up another article. I can't remember her name. Where another person said that Nick had propositioned her to be a sugar baby relationship, and another player had come out and said that he kissed her uninvitedly or whatever, unwantedly. So then more and more stuff was coming out like this. And then Nick Airball makes this statement on Twitter, kind of distancing himself from Nick, trying to call that the show and Ryan have to do something to distance themselves from Vertucci. This is uncalled for. And then Veronica Brill does a interview with Poker.org with Craig Tapscott and kind of also she says, Nick's a creep. He lied to me. I can't believe I put up with him all this time. I don't know what's going on. So that was a long interview. Go ahead, check that out if you're interested in that. Because as you know, Veronica was Nick's podcast co-host for some time over there on his Nick Vertucci podcast. And then after that, Hustler releases this very short tweet saying that Nick Vertucci will no longer be involved with High Stakes Poker Productions. So that came out on October 9th, just under a week ago, and that is kind of the last official thing that we heard. There's some other stuff. She, in the article, Jennifer goes into some of the responses from what Julia had put out. And she gets into more of how can we, as a community, kind of prevent this kind of stuff. The only other little tidbit I saw was that that didn't come out in here. It was that Todd Witeles put out a tweet saying he had some fairly reliable information that Nick was in talks and open to selling his stake in HCL, and he would likely be selling his half of the company. So that we haven't heard anything official on either. So
I think I heard Alex Keating was maybe in the running for that too.
Oh, that would be a pretty good move for the show. So yeah, so those are the facts. Those are the tweets. Those are the things that have been said and things that have come out. And I guess somewhat related is that Live at Commerce just so happens to be doing a ladies' night game on Thursday. So in a couple days, they happen to be having Veronica Brill, Casey Mills, Tiffany Michelle, and it went away. Baby Shark, Christina Gollins, Caitlin Comiskey, and Julia from Palmdale on the show to play on Thursday. And, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get Kitty on there. She's played on the show before, and others. Yeah. So they're having a ladies' night. I feel like they're kind of trying to capitalize on this a little bit, but, hopefully they can provide a safer, more fun space for these ladies to play on and showcase their game. So, tune into that on Thursday, and maybe they'll dish a little tea at the table as well, as they say, right? Is that the right? Spill a little tea? I don't know. Whatever the kids say.
Spill a little tea. Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate situation, terrible for the women playing, and I think that people are kind of victim blaming. HCL is a big deal. Getting on that show is a big deal. People are trying to, they're not all just clout chasing, right? There are other opportunities you can get from going on streams like that, from other cash games to maybe even like building your own online personality. So nowhere in any world should anybody in a position of power be doing that kind of stuff to people, right? Like the power dynamics there are terrible, and that's like just, I don't know, like 101 of like sexual harassment in not only just like a work, in a workplace, but just anywhere.
Yep.
It's super bad.
Yeah, it's just wild that anyone who's a businessman, quote unquote, just doesn't understand the essence of like you want to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Like, come on, man. It's like, it's so simple. Right. And we have Queens of Poker, Julie, in the chat, and she points out that they have been talking about this in their latest episode as well. So if you want to know more and you want to hear some point of view of the ladies, go on over to her podcast. Check that out as well. Oh, and it was Ash Kardash. Yep, that was the name I couldn't remember before. So check all that out. Like I said, we try to stick to tournaments here, but sometimes the smell is so strong, we just have to point it out. Coming from our cash brethren over there, there's nothing we can do. We gotta say something. All right, man, I feel dirty talking about that. I don't know. You have anything else you want to kick in, Derek, on the Vertucci?
No, I feel like this one's probably been beaten to death by people, but definitely something we want to cover. And again, just voice that it's really unacceptable to be doing stuff like that.
Absolutely. So Rare says the first time he met him, he knew Nick would get canceled. I thought he could keep his mouth shut enough to not get canceled, but I did think he was basically. I mean, if you don't get a read on him that he's just not basically he's a scumbag, right? If you just can't get that read just from looking at him, and then if you learn anything about his old businesses or any of that, it's just like, how do you still think he's a
Yeah.
trustworthy guy? I mean, sounded from
Yeah.
the sounds of things, he's running Hustler the way that like a mafia runs their thing, right? Like, oh, loyalty. It's all about loyalty, and if it's not loyalty, you're out, right? I mean, like, look at all the people
Yeah.
from Hustler that have been burned out of it that used to be the most loyal friends, right? Now they're just completely out, right? Like DGAF used to be the number one everything. Now he's doing his own thing at Lucky Lady, doesn't talk to Hustler at all, has nothing to do with him. Freaking Veronica
Yeah.
turned and is now like on the bandwagon of, yes, Nick's bad, Nick's terrible, Nick's evil. It's like, yeah, well, we knew that, but like that's another burned out, right? Even what Christian Soto went from Berkey's group to his group, and now he's just out, won't talk to anybody. Like there's so many people who just were on the inside, now they're just completely burned out. You know, Garrett to an extent, right? It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
it honestly, it reminds me of Trump and like his 40 cabinet members who won't go near him again, and his, you know, why aren't you running with your
Yeah.
same vice president and that kind of stuff, right? It's like loyalty. All that matters is loyalty. Competency doesn't matter. Decency doesn't matter. Just loyalty. Be loyal. I can get you into this game. Be loyal. You'll be able. The second you're awesome, we're all great. The second you're not loyal, you're shit. And I have nothing to offer but being loyal, and you're not loyal, so get out. Oh, people don't like me? Wait, they do. I don't know. Whatever. All I care about is loyalty. It's like, come on, man. Just do something. Do
Yeah,
something.
when this kind of stuff happens, I kind of feel like a lot of us are just trying to keep saying that we have kind of moved ahead as a society and we're just so much better than we were,
Oh, we're
like
not.
years ago. But then
No.
stuff like this is kind of happening. It just
Yeah.
really, really sets back and very disappointing.
Absolutely not. Anyways, I need to talk about I need to go to my happy place. Let's talk about rules.
All right, let's go.
All
This is
right.
your passion.
So the 2024 TDA rules have been published. They were published a few weeks ago. We talked about them when the conference was going on. I'm not going to harp on too much, but a couple things to point out that will be exciting to some and that are surprising to others. Just want to quickly point out, one, Kevin has been saying all year, as soon as they publish these, they'll go to Big Blind first instead of ante first. So that's it. Gardens is now Big Blind first. Couple other things we have here, right? So new rule in red, player identity. Players must be clearly identifiable at all times. Tournament staff may request a player to remove any item which inhibits their identification or is a distraction to the other participants. So there's a lot of interpretation there. But now there's an official rule that gives the floor power to, tell somebody that you cannot wear a gaiter and glasses and a hat and a scarf and all that stuff. Phones and other devices may not rest on the table. I thought that's typically a casino rule anyways, but now it's an explicit tournament
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea,
Yep.
especially with all the kind of craziness that was happening with the cameras and stuff.
They have specifically added the line that you can't operate with an electronic or communication device, and they will update that definition as time goes by while you're in a hand. So you cannot interact
Good.
with anything. So they are adding more and more to the TDA to try and specifically make it so that these technological loopholes aren't so easy to
Yeah.
get through. So that's good.
I think it's just smart to do this, even if it's super unlikely that somebody's, doing something like super high tech. Just the perception of it is so bad, especially for amateur players that just shut
Yeah.
it down. And I don't mind being a little bit inconvenienced for the good of the game.
Yeah, and there's been a number of times in the last few weeks I've been asked, and I've seen people ask people to take their phones off the rail, to take their phones off the table, to not look at their phone in between hands. I had a guy, I think he thought I was looking something up on a solver in between hands because I like picked my phone up right after a hand, and he looked at me, he's like, which solver do you use? And I'm like, I don't really use a solver. I guess if I
Yeah.
had to pick, I would probably use this one, but I don't have time. He's like, I'm like, I'm talking trash to Derek or something right now. Like I'm not, but,
Yeah.
but
I actually do. I haven't used the solver at a table like checking hands in forever, and it's actually kind of nice. I don't know, because before I was always just so like adamant of make sure I got the details correct. I want to check this to make sure like I played that correctly or not. And now I kind of feel like I can't do it anymore, so I'm relieved of that.
yeah,
of
yeah,
that sort
it's
of
liberating,
responsibility.
right? It's liberating.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of the big one here. So you cannot use it used to say apps and charts, and it says, and other strategy tools may not be used at the table, nor may players receive or use poker strategy data from another person or source. So they're leaving it vague, and they basically are trying to close all loopholes. Like, you cannot, basically, any information coming from a computer cannot come to you while you're playing a tournament from any route,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of what they're trying to get at here. So that's cool. They're really trying. I have interesting. So I had when I was when I was doing well in that night flight, and I almost made the money. Somebody tried to my man Brian tried to give me a tongue, or rather a brain teaser, and I actually hesitated and kind of got it wrong. But the reason was because his brain teaser no longer is correct. It was a rules question, so that's why he threw it at me. And I thought of the real answer, and then I said, well, I think they changed that, so I don't know. So here was his riddle was, so let's say you get to the table, you sit down, you've been gone, you just come back to the table, you sit down, and they deal the cards around, they deal you your hand, and then they kill your hand. And why? And
Kill your hand.
yeah, and they kill your hand. Your hand is dead. You sit down, you're sitting there, they're done dealing, they kill your hand. And the old reason was because the prior hand had been misdealt, and then they were redealing the prior hand. So they were trying to recreate the old set where you were gone, where you were dealt in, but you were not there, so your hand is dead. The new rule is that in that situation, and I'm trying to find it, in that situation, you are allowed to play. Now, a new player cannot be put at the table, but if you return to your seat, you can now play.
Yeah, you should be able to. That seemed like a dumb rule. That was what it was before. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it was inconsistent, so it was kind of like up to interpretation. But now it's explicit, and I cannot. Sorry for everyone watching me scroll like this. I didn't write down which rule number it was. Oh, here it is. Here it is, right here.
You found it?
Yep.
Really?
In misdeal, the redeal is an exact replay. The button doesn't move. No new players are seated. Limits are the same. Cards are dealt to players who were dealt in, but not at their seats for the original deal, and they can play the redeal. That's the part that's red.
Yeah.
Players who were on penalty are still on penalty, though, and this hand only counts as one. Yep. So, little rules trivia for you. And so, yeah, so I got it wrong because I knew that, and he didn't. So, the answer wasn't right anymore. Well, see, but so rare, if they found out that you did that, technically you would have also seen the chart, so you would be in trouble too because you saw it, right? Now, if you've already busted and you want to just keep sending them charts from the parking lot to get him in trouble, you probably can. He's asking if he can send his opponent's charts if he has their number to get him in trouble. So, yeah, if you're in the parking lot and you can, but otherwise, I think your risk, because there's no way you can open a chart and send it to him without looking at it, really. So, I mean, kind of take you both down.
So rare NBA squad doesn't get my phone number.
Yeah, right. All right, cool. So just so you know, those rules are out. You can go to the TDA website and you can download them. So I recommend keeping a copy on your phone. I know I do. I'm not even joking.
I know you're not joking.
I was gonna bet this guy. So another one came up at the table. I wanted to bet him so bad, but I couldn't. I didn't find the exact spot because it was one of those things where you can't find. It's not a find the rule. It's a search the whole thing and make sure the rule's not in there. It was one of those spots where like your heads up or you're not. You can't talk about anything during the hand. You can't talk about this during the hand. You can't say these sorts of things during the hand. You cannot influence the action during the hand. Don't say anything during the hand. That kind of a shout, right? One of these guys.
Yeah.
And because Frank actually asked Savage recently what you can do when you're heads up and talking, I was pretty confident he was dead wrong, and he is. He's dead wrong. The only rule in the TDA is that you cannot disclose the contents of your hand live or dead. And then the other rules, there's no coaching or not parading. What's the word? No coaching or criticizing play at any time. And then the last piece of it is also not relevant. So that's it. Other than that, it's up to interpretation for the floor.
Yeah. And
So
I'm okay if the interpretations are a little bit stronger there, because then you guys get people being wise asses, like, trying to get around it by, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? So,
I feel like
I don't mind them clamping down.
Cabin is the most strict on it, followed by the bike, followed by Commerce. I think around here in LA.
Yeah.
That
So, I mean, this almost feels a little bit almost like for me personally, I might dig at a regular a little bit, an experienced player a little bit, to try to get a reaction out of them or something. I would never do that to an amateur player.
right, right.
And I don't really care when people do it to me. So it's like at this point, I wouldn't mind them just kind of like clamping down on it just so that newer players don't get,
Yeah, for sure,
made to feel too uncomfortable. Yeah.
for sure. Um, and this I actually looked up the World Series rules. This really shocked me, honestly. In World Series rules, it's much more lax. In World Series rules, if no one left in the hand has any actions to make, you can say pretty much anything. So if they've already gone all in and no one else has to call or raise or whatever, you can say almost anything. And
World Series is like literally everything the World Series does is about helping amateur players, like from their payouts to the way they interpret rules to, the no solvers and everything. So this one
well, I thought this was
is
just for
surprising.
TV value.
Yeah, maybe that's all it's for,
Yeah,
really.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty confusing one because it's I understand it, but if you just told someone that, they would get it wrong a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
This might,
this was less surprising once I read it, but when you're down to the final two in the tournament, or if you're playing one of the heads up events, no rules. You
mhm.
can say anything.
Hmm. I feel like Daniel Negreanu probably had some influence here because he loves the talking.
That's
Yeah, he
possible.
probably influenced the WSOP for these. Yeah.
That's possible. But just know if you're playing in a circuit event or a bracelet event and you get to heads up, you can say anything you want. You can get dealt your cards, be like aces, yes, raise. Like apparently, there's no rules about what you say when there's only two people left in the tournament.
Yeah. So Jeff is saying people exposing their hand, that's like should be like an instant penalty, I feel like. So,
Oh yeah, I would have to relook through the rules about actually exposing. This is just about talking about it, right? So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I think Jeff is just saying, like, he sees people doing that too often, but I feel like that could be a penalty
yeah,
when you do something like that.
yeah. I
Very
feel like
strong.
that's even different, right? Yeah. The
Yeah.
talking rules. I didn't look those up. I'm not gonna extend the episode anymore to look them up. Maybe we'll look it up later.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. I know you're super excited for that section, Derek. I know you couldn't wait, but
I actually like talking about rules too. I'm just not, as passionate about it as you are, but I like them.
all right. All right. Well, I think that is about enough for us. Let's find out what we're doing this weekend. Okay. So we have, as everybody knows, the big Poker October still happening at the bike, and I'm stalling because I didn't bring up their schedule. But this week started the 500K guarantee, the Quantum. I believe you actually played a flight on Sunday, right, Derek?
I did. I very quickly got a big stack, and then maybe gave it away doing a couple little spicy things here and there, but
Oh,
you
that's
know how it
good.
goes.
Donating to the listeners,
Yeah.
helping the community. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
it's not just me building the stacks and punting them. So those are $380 buy-ins with a 15% bagging rate. And I believe the double bag bonus is I think it's a buy-in or buy-in and a half shy of what it should be. So it's like times 5-ish. So it's probably 1,400, I think. It's probably like 1,400. I'm sure so Rare knows. I don't want to scroll down and click, but that's what's happening all week, along with a couple survivors. And there are. I kind of like this. I still wish, and by wish I mean I still won't do them until they institute this. They have their flip and goes for the day two buy-ins, the day two direct buy-ins, but until I know that they're completely rake free, I'm not doing one. I mean, there's no reason you should rake a flip and go that is immediately going to put me into something else that's raked. Like the only rake in
Yeah,
it should
that's
be
absurd.
I get my $1,600 buy-in and I pay it and I know some of that 1,600 is rake. That's the only rake there should be. So until
Yeah.
I've looked at evidence of that, I'm not playing in them. But I love that they exist. I just wish they just need to be rake free. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's happening this weekend. I'll be playing those, and in fact, I actually will probably be able to get to a flight on Thursday before the end of the day. So maybe
Wow.
unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, this double bag bonus is less enticing. But I might just try and keep bagging and get myself a million chips or something. We'll see. Um, if not, maybe I'll be down at the Gardens if I get lucky enough to bag early.
This is a nice quantum because there's only one day two. It is on a Sunday, and I think this should wrap on a Monday. So this is,
Yep.
one of the nicer ones with the quantums
Yeah.
for, at
Yep.
least the 500K. Yeah.
Absolutely. Depending on how many people enter in day two, there's a tiny chance it could end on Sunday. Probably won't, but there's a small chance. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of hope that if they get close, they just allow them to play it out instead of forcing a bunch of people to come back. But,
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Yeah. But yeah, we know how that goes. So the other events around town, we have the dailies at the Gardens. They're going to, with this being a quantum weekend, they're just going to kill like usual. So definitely can hop on down there. So Rare's going to day two buy in over there. Yeah, if I was more busy, I would definitely just do that also. So Rare. Over at Lucky Lady, we have the regular weekend events. One thing to point out, this seems to be new. It looks like they're doing where'd it go? There it is. They're doing Big O tournaments now. Every Saturday at 11, they're doing a $150 buy-in Big O tournament. So if you want to get into that, that's kind of a cheap way to jump into Big O. So maybe look into that. This week, it looks like they just have their regular events. So their regular schedule, which, as we pointed out, they have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The 1 p.m. appears to be something new on the schedule or moved. Over at Hollywood Park, they have a 25K Friday bounty, I believe, this week, October 18th. Yep. And aside from that, it looks like they just have their regular schedule happening this weekend. So Sunday, there is a football game. There will be no morning tournament on Sunday. There will still be a later in the day one at 7:30 p.m. So they're having their 10K bankroll builder on Saturday, and then Sunday night they're having an event. And then they still have the daily tournaments happening over at Commerce. And also, Commerce is running, I don't think they're running cash to get into the main event this month. I think it's like a rake back kind of thing. Play hours, earn money in their cash pits. But keep your eye and get ready. Commerce has the circuit coming. Wrong button. Has the circuit coming back in November. So, yeah, that is it. Kind of a typical weekend for us here in LA.
Yeah, it looks like, the 500K obviously is going to be the biggest one to play. See if you can get out there and, hopefully to take the day off on Monday if you can make day two.
Yeah.
Day three.
Yep,
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and Mark points out they don't say day three on the structure sheet, and that's something I learned the first quantum I made it deep in, and I was very upset, and all of us, probably 80% of us, shouted we wanted to play more, but no, we had to come back. So that I probably should have put on the list, is that secret days to the tournament is another property of LA tournaments. The structure sheets don't always say everything. They have a secret final table day.
They have secret day 4 and day 5.
I know, right? It's a secret. Yep. Oh yeah, and so Sammy, I don't think that's the final schedule. Think the thing they put out seems kind of placeholdery to me. They initially released one on the World Series page itself that did have some guarantees listed, and then that came down real fast, and then this one came up on Commerce, and it just like the sheet itself just doesn't look official. I don't know, there's something weird about it. We talked about this the other day, the whole play to 9 with no explanation thing, no structure sheet. So I still have my fingers crossed they have more guarantees. So
yeah, I don't know why they keep sticking it out there like in a draft mode.
Yeah, I don't understand, because the opening event should have a guarantee. I believe it's 500K. And the main event should have a guarantee. It's going to be $1 million, I think. So, yeah, secret days do only happen at the bike. All right, guys, that's all we have for you this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. We hope that you're having a good week. We hope that, it's kind of a quiet week. I mean, a 500K quantum at the bike's kind of average for them, and it's still a quantum, and it's kind of a good week to chill and, hit some dailies and get some rest if you don't feel like grinding that quantum. So, hopefully you do, though, and hopefully we'll see you out there. And I'll be down there grinding, unfortunately, because it's the only 6-figure guarantee in town. So I'll see you, and probably see Derek too, right?
Yep, we'll see you guys at the tables.
All right, we'll see you at the tables.